Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive, and today we're tackling Michelle Obama's Becoming.
Yeah, this one's been on my list for a while.
It's such a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows Michelle Obama, but this book really takes you behind the scenes. From her childhood in Chicago
Right.
to her time as First Lady. It's all in there.
It's not just like a timeline of events, though, right?
No, not at all. It's more about, her personal evolution, her challenges, triumphs, and really just like her spirit. It's very inspiring.
So where do we even begin with a story like this? I mean, there's so much to unpack.
Let's start at the beginning,
Yeah.
right? With her childhood, I was really struck by how close she was with her brother Craig.
Oh, yeah. They shared that tiny room, right?
Yeah.
With just a partition between them.
Exactly. And it wasn't even like a real wall or anything. It was something her grandfather built.
I can't even imagine sharing a room like that with my sibling, but they may it work.
They really did. They'd stay up late talking, tossing a sock back and forth across the room. Just picturing that really shows how close they were.
It makes you wonder how that kind of environment shaped their relationship, right? And maybe even influenced Michelle's outlook on life.
Oh, for sure. And there are all these other little details that really bring her family life to life.
Like what?
Well, like her dad's car. Remember? He had this Buick Electra 225 nicknamed the Deuce and a Quarter.
Oh, yeah. He was so proud of that car.
He was, and family trips in that car, they were like a big deal.
Yeah.
It represented freedom, family togetherness.
Yeah, it gives you a glimpse into the values she was raised with, right? Like those ordinary moments, they say a lot about a family.
Absolutely. And speaking of family values, I loved her stories about their family dinners.
What about them?
Her parents really encouraged open conversation, even when she was little. They treated her and Craig like adults, like they could actually have their own opinions.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I can't imagine having those kinds of conversations with my parents when I was a kid.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But Michelle actually convinced her mom to let her have peanut butter and jelly for breakfast instead of eggs.
Wait, really? Through like a reasoned argument or something?
Yeah, she basically staged this whole debate. She called it her Socratic victory.
Wow, that's impressive. That kind of environment must really foster critical thinking from a young age.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it probably gave her a lot of confidence later on.
Right.
Whether she was, taking on tough legal cases or advocating for causes she believed in.
Makes sense. It's like those early experiences of speaking her mind really paved the way for her future.
Exactly. And it's clear that family played a huge role in shaping who she became. I mean, her brother Craig sounds incredibly responsible.
Oh, yeah. Especially the way he helped their father as his multiple sclerosis progressed.
It's a really powerful example of how they supported each other through difficult times. And speaking of family, we can't forget her grandfather, Dandy.
His story is amazing, right? That whole journey from South Carolina to Chicago during the Great Migration.
It's a reminder of what that generation went through, the challenges and the triumphs. And they called him the professor. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He always wanted to go to college, but he never got the chance.
It makes you think about the impact of those missed opportunities.
Right.
And how that might have influenced Michelle's own drive to succeed.
Absolutely. And speaking of achieving, her story about her first piano recital really stuck with me.
What happened?
Well, she was used to practicing on this old upright piano that her teacher had, and then for the recital, she had to play on this beautiful grand piano.
Oh, wow. Talk about a change of pace.
I know. It totally threw her off.
Yeah.
She felt lost. She couldn't even find middle C.
Oh, no. I can imagine that being pretty nerve-wracking.
It was. But then her teacher came over and helped her. Showed her where to start and got her back on track.
Oh, that's a good teacher.
Yeah.
It's almost symbolic, isn't it? That
Yeah.
feeling of being overwhelmed by something new and then finding the support you need to get through it.
That's a great point. And that theme of facing challenges really comes through in her story about learning to read. Remember?
Yeah.
How she struggled with the word white.
Yeah, I remember that. And how she felt this pressure to prove herself.
It's interesting how she connects that experience to a deeper feeling of needing to excel, to not be seen as incapable.
I wonder how much of that was internal pressure and how much was external, from the expectations of others.
That's a good question. And as she gets older, that drive to excel continues. Even something like a playground fight. It becomes a moment of earning respect.
A playground fight. Seriously.
Yeah, with a girl named Dee Dee. It's like this turning point where she integrates into the neighborhood tribe.
Wow. Childhood experiences can be so formative, can't they? Even conflicts like that.
They really can.
Right.
And then as she enters her teenage years, She's navigating friendships,
Yeah.
exploring her identity.
And then there's this big shift, right, when she transitions to Whitney Young High School.
Exactly. It's a whole new social landscape. And those 3-hour daily bus rides exposed her to so many different parts of Chicago.
It's like she's slowly piecing together this puzzle of where she fits in, right, in the larger scheme of things.
Yeah. And during this time, she also discovers this whole world of like an African-American elite.
A world that's very different from her own family's background.
Exactly. It really opens her eyes to the complexities of race and class and opportunity.
And it probably made her question her own place in the world.
Definitely. Then there's another influential figure who enters her life around this time, Santita Jackson, daughter of Reverend Jesse Jackson.
So she's exposed to a whole other world, right? The world of politics and activism.
Exactly. Which is pretty interesting considering her later involvement in politics.
Right, but first she has to make some big decisions about college.
And she ends up choosing Princeton.
Following in her brother's footsteps.
Pretty much. I think she felt a sense of comfort. Following a familiar path.
It's still a huge step, though, right? Leaving home, going to this prestigious university, it's the beginning of another chapter in her becoming.
Oh, absolutely. And Princeton is where things really start to get interesting.
You're going to have to tell me all about it next time.
I will. Don't worry. We've only just scratched the surface of her story.
I can't wait.
Princeton's a whole new world for her. It's like she dives right in. But you can tell she's still carrying that feeling, of needing to prove herself.
Especially being one of the few black students there, right?
Exactly. She talks about this pressure to overperform, to represent her race, to excel in everything.
It's a lot to carry. Makes you think about the emotional toll that those expectations can have.
It really does. And you can feel that tension in some of her stories. Like that awkward farewell with her boyfriend David when she first gets to Princeton.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
It was just this really stiff goodbye. Like neither of them knew what to say. It's almost like they could sense the challenges ahead.
The challenges of maintaining a relationship long distance.
Exactly. And at the same time, trying to find your place in this new demanding environment.
And then there's her roommate, Suzanne. She's the complete opposite of Michelle.
Total opposite. Suzanne's nickname was Scroozy. She was all about having fun and being spontaneous.
While Michelle's focus on her studies and, making a difference.
It's interesting how those different approaches to college life play out. You wonder how they shape their experiences.
For sure. And then there's this one story that really stuck with me about a trip to New York City.
Oh, yeah, with her friend Cerny.
And she describes feeling dislodged after that trip. It's like she realized how attached she still was to Chicago.
To her home, to her familiar world.
That feeling of displacement. It's something a lot of people can relate to, right? Especially when they leave home for the first time.
It could be so disorienting, but also exciting at the same time.
Like it forces you to confront your assumptions, figure out who you are outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And that theme of self-discovery continues to her time at Harvard Law School.
She's clearly brilliant, succeeding in this demanding field, but
there's this underlying feeling that she's not truly passionate about law.
It's like she's going through the motions, but not really feeling fulfilled.
And it takes a lot of courage to even question that path when you're already so successful.
I think a lot of people struggle with that, don't they? Pursuing a career because they think they should, but not because it's their true calling.
It's such a common experience. Yeah. And Michelle's brave enough to acknowledge it. She even reflects on how she always thought she wanted to be a pediatrician.
Because that's what everyone expected of her.
It makes you wonder how many of us end up on paths that aren't really right for us.
Because of societal expectations, family pressures, all of that.
It's a lot to unpack. And then, of course, there's this major turning point. Her return to Chicago and meeting Barack Obama.
At Sidley and Austin, right? Where they both work?
Yep. And at first, she's kind of annoyed by him.
Really? Why?
He's late to their first meeting. She's this super organized lawyer. He's got this laid-back, charismatic vibe.
He seemed like total opposites.
But there's definitely a spark between them. She's intrigued by him, especially his background, his unconventional path.
It's not your typical love story, that's for sure.
But their friendship grows. They have these long lunches. They talk about everything.
Basketball, his trip to Kenya,
all
of it.
And she starts to see a different side of him. Not just the charming lawyer, but someone who's deeply committed to social justice.
Someone who wants to make a real difference in the world.
Exactly. And then there's this pivotal moment. A community organizing meeting in Roseland.
Where he's working with residents, trying to improve their community.
She sees him in action, connecting with people. inspiring hope in this neighborhood that's facing so many challenges.
And it really makes her question her own expectations.
Like, what kind of impact does she want to have?
Is corporate law really the answer?
It's like her worldview is expanding.
She's starting to see the limitations of her own ambition.
And then tragedy strikes, right? Her friend Suzanne passes away.
It's such a heartbreaking moment. It makes her reevaluate everything. What really matters in life.
She starts to question her career path even more. She's searching for meaning, purpose.
And she has this really honest conversation with her mother about leaving her law firm.
Oh, yeah. Her mom doesn't quite understand why she would give up such a good job.
It's a classic generational divide, right? Different perspectives on work and fulfillment.
And it's all happening while she's dealing with her father's declining health.
Her dad's battle with MS.
It's a lot for her to handle, these profound moments of grief and loss.
They really underscore the importance of family, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
And it's through all of this change and upheaval that she takes a leap of faith.
The new job.
At the University of Chicago, working with students' community service programs.
So she's stepping away from the corporate world.
Moving towards something more purpose-driven.
And that's where she really starts to make her mark.
Exactly. She sees this disconnect between the university and the surrounding Southside community.
That town-gown divide.
And she's determined to bridge that gap to create opportunities for those who've been left behind.
It's like those early experiences, learning to read, feeling that pressure to excel.
Are all shaping her vision for a more just and equitable world.
And then another key figure enters the picture, Valerie Jarrett.
Valerie's the one who introduces Michelle to the world of Chicago politics.
Even though Michelle's pretty skeptical at first, right?
Yeah. She grew up with a deep distrust of authority, but she's also starting to see the potential for change.
The potential for politics to make a real difference.
And then there's Barack. His political star is on the rise.
Fresh out of law school, he's got all these options ahead of him.
Teaching, writing, working at a public interest law firm.
Yeah.
And Michelle makes this crucial decision.
What's that?
To introduce him to Valerie.
Wow, that's a big step. It's like she's opening the door to a whole new world for both of them.
It really is. She's starting to believe in his potential, to see him as someone who could lead change on a larger scale.
And she's willing to take that leap to support him on this journey, even though it means stepping into the unknown.
It's a brave choice. And it's just the beginning of their incredible journey together. I think she saw his dedication, that passion for making a difference, plus his ability to connect with people on such a genuine level.
And that unwavering belief in the power of hope. It's contagious.
Totally. And she was evolving too, right?
Yeah.
Remember how skeptical she was of politics at first?
Oh, yeah. But she's starting to see it as a way to create real change.
Exactly. And then there's the personal side of their story. They get married, start a family, all while Barack's political career is taking off.
It's a lot to juggle career, family, ambitions.
And they face some serious challenges along the way. Their struggles with infertility.
That part of the book, it's so raw and honest. It really resonated with me.
Me too. It's a reminder that everyone goes through tough times, even strong, successful couples.
It's brave of them to share that story. It must help so many people who are going through something similar.
And then, of course, come the joys and demands of parenthood. Raising their daughters, Malia and Sasha.
Trying to maintain some sense of normalcy amidst all the chaos.
It's a familiar struggle, right? So many families trying to find that balance.
And she doesn't sugarcoat it. She talks about the tough decisions, the sacrifices they had to make.
Like when Barack ran for Congress and lost.
Or when Malia got sick and they had to put everything on hold to focus on family.
And those moments really highlight their values. Putting family first, no matter what.
And then the political roller coaster really takes off, with Barack's decision to run for the U.S. Senate.
Everything just seemed to align for him. The timing, the media attention.
And there's this growing sense that he was destined for something big.
That speech he gave at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, it was electrifying.
A defining moment. It put him on the map and set the stage for what was to come.
But even with all that momentum, Michelle still had reservations about a presidential run.
She wanted a more normal life for their family.
She was worried about the impact on their daughters, the scrutiny, the pressure.
It's a huge decision, weighing personal desires against the sense of duty.
In the end, she supported his decision, even though it wasn't easy.
And the campaign itself, it was intense, grueling.
The constant media attention, the negative attacks, it takes a toll.
And then there was that whole controversy over her proud of my country comment.
Taken out of context, twisted into something it wasn't.
It's a prime example of how quickly things can spiral in the political arena.
But she found her voice focusing on issues she cared about, connecting with voters in this really genuine way.
Military families' work-life balance. She brought those issues to the forefront.
And then election night. That feeling of history being made.
The hope, the excitement, it was palpable.
But becoming First Lady, it brought a whole new set of challenges.
Adjusting to life in the White House, raising kids in the spotlight, it's a lot to handle.
And she had to navigate this very traditional role while also trying to find her own way to make an impact.
And she did. She focused on issues she was passionate about: childhood obesity, support for military families, girls' education.
She used her platform to advocate for change, to inspire others.
Her Let's Move initiative, it really brought attention to the issue of childhood health.
And joining forces supporting military families and veterans, that was huge.
She really made a difference, and she did it all while staying true to herself.
She didn't shy away from speaking her mind, challenging expectations.
Like when she hugged Queen Elizabeth, remember that?
Caused quite a stir, but it also showed her humanity, her willingness to break protocol.
And she never backed down from tough conversations about race, about gun violence.
Her speeches were so powerful, so moving.
She has this incredible ability to connect with people on an emotional level, to inspire hope and empathy.
And she made a point of reaching out to young people, encouraging them to dream big.
Her visits to schools, her work with girls' education initiative.
She really left her mark. And through it all, she never lost sight of herself, of her family, of what's truly important.
She created the White House Garden, a symbol of growth and resilience.
She relied on her strong support network, her family, her friends.
She made time for self-care amidst all the chaos.
It's a reminder that we all need to find that balance to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others.
Her story is ultimately one of hope, of resilience, of the power of one person to make a difference.
It's inspiring. It's thought-provoking. It's a story that will stay with you long after you finish the book.
So what part of Michelle Obama's journey resonated most with you? What will you carry with you from her story? Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep becoming.